The key turned in the lock, and I pushed open the front door, my shoulders aching from another brutal 12-hour shift at the warehouse. All I wanted was to collapse into my gaming chair and lose myself in some mindless shooter for a few hours. But as I walked toward my room, something felt wrong. The silence was too thick, too deliberate. I rounded the corner into what used to be my sanctuary, and my heart just stopped. Empty. Completely, utterly empty. Where my custom-built PC had hummed with RGB lighting, there was nothing but a clean rectangle of carpet. Where my dual 27-inch monitors had stood like twin sentinels, there were just dangling cables. My mechanical keyboard with its satisfying clicks, my precision gaming mouse, my studio-quality headset, all of it gone. Even my gaming chair had vanished, leaving behind only the faint indentations in the carpet where its wheels had rolled for 2 years. "What the hell?" The words came out as a whisper, but they echoed in the hollow space like a scream. "Oh, honey, you're home early." I spun around to find my stepmother, Linda, standing in the doorway with this sickeningly sweet smile plastered across her face. The kind of smile that meant she'd done something terrible and was desperately trying to soften the blow. "Where is my setup?" My voice was deadly calm, but inside, I was already breaking apart. "Where is my computer, Linda?" She twisted her hands together, that guilty smile faltering. "Well, you see, sweetie, we had to make a difficult decision today. Emma found this absolutely perfect motorcycle and you sold my gaming setup." It wasn't a question. The reality was hitting me like a freight train, but I needed to hear her say it. "We got a very good price, $3,000. This young man drove all the way from 3,000. I stared at her, my vision starting to blur with rage. "Linda, that setup cost me $5,500. I have the receipts. I have the warranties. I stopped, my voice cracking. "I have nothing. You sold my entire setup for $3,000? Now, before you get upset, before I get upset, the explosion came from somewhere deep in my chest. Upset? Linda, I worked double shifts for 2 years to afford that equipment. I skipped meals. I wore the same clothes until they fell apart. I saved every penny, every dime, I had to stop because I was hyperventilating. Emma really needed this bike, and you never use that computer anyway. "I use it every day," I roared. "I stream on weekends. I freelance graphic design. That computer wasn't just a toy, it was my lifeline, my escape, I couldn't finish. The words were choking me. That's when I heard the front door slam, followed by my dad's heavy footsteps. Perfect. Time for the tag team justification. "Dad?" I met him in the hallway, and he couldn't even look at me. His eyes were glued to the floor like a guilty child. "Dad, tell me you didn't know about this." Silence. "Dad." "Look, son, I know you're upset, but..." "Upset? I'm way past upset. I'm in a whole different stratosphere of furious. You let her sell my property without my permission. That's theft, Dad. That's actual theft." Finally, he looked up, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. Resignation. Like he'd already made peace with what they'd done. "Family comes first," he said quietly. "Emma's been through a lot with her mom's divorce, and this bike, it means everything to her. She's been struggling, and we thought..." "You thought you'd rob your own son to make her feel better?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You thought you'd steal from me to fund her happiness? We didn't steal anything. We're going to pay you back. Eventually. Eventually." I repeated the word like it was poison. "When, Dad? When are you going to pay me back $5,500? Next month? Next year? When I'm 30? He couldn't answer. Of course he couldn't answer, because they had no plan. They'd just seen an opportunity to make their precious Emma happy, and they'd taken it without thinking about the consequences. "Where is she?" I asked through gritted teeth. "Where's Emma?" "She's out with her friend Madison, probably at the bike shop looking at my computer money," I finished. "Looking at my sacrifice." Linda stepped forward, her hands raised like she was approaching a wild animal. "Honey, we really thought you'd understand. You're such a good big brother to Emma, and she's been so excited about this bike. She's been talking about it for weeks. Weeks. She'd been planning this for weeks, probably talking to them, convincing them, working on them like a master manipulator, and they'd fallen for it completely. I'm not her big brother," I said coldly. "I'm your husband's son who happens to live in the same house as your daughter. There's a difference." That's not fair. Fair? I laughed again, and this time it was bitter enough to strip paint. You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been asking me first. Fair would have been respecting my property. Fair would have been not selling my stuff to fund her dreams. I turned to my dad, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of the man who used to put me on his shoulders, who taught me to throw a baseball, who promised he'd always have my back. She's not even your daughter, Dad. She's been in our lives for 3 years. 3 years. And you chose her over me, your actual son. The flicker died. She's family now. Linda and Emma are family, and family takes care of family. Then what does that make me? He didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was written all over his face. I was expendable. I was the convenient sacrifice to keep the peace in his new family. I felt something break inside me. Not just anger. That was still there, burning hot and bright. But something deeper. Some fundamental trust in the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. I'm moving out, I said quietly. I'm going to pack my remaining stuff and I'm leaving. Tonight. Son, don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I stared at him. Dad, you sold my dreams to fund hers. You took 2 years of my life and handed it to someone who's known you for 3 minutes in the grand scheme of things. And you think I'm being dramatic? I started walking toward my room, but Linda's voice stopped me. Wait, honey, there's something else you should know. About the bike Emma's buying. I turned around, and something in her expression made my stomach drop. She looked nervous. More nervous than someone should look when they're just trying to give additional information. What about it? Well, it's vintage. From the 1970s. The man selling it is some kind of collector, and Emma's been in touch with him for months. She showed us pictures, and it's beautiful, but... She trailed off, biting her lip. But what, Linda? But he said something odd when we called to arrange the sale. He asked if Emma's last name was Morrison. When we said no, it was Chen. He seemed surprised. He kept asking about our family, about Emma's background. My blood turned to ice. Morrison. That was my mother's maiden name. The mother who walked out on us when I was 12. The mother who'd been trying to reconnect with me through social media for years. What else did he say? My voice was barely a whisper. He said something about how small the world was and how everything happens for a reason. Emma was so excited she didn't really pay attention, but I thought it was strange. I stood there, pieces of a puzzle I didn't even know existed starting to click into place. Emma had been talking about this bike for weeks. She'd shown me pictures, told me about the seller, even mentioned his name once or twice. What was it? Something with a B? Bradley? Benson? Brennan? That was it. Tom Brennan. And suddenly, I remembered why that name had sounded familiar when Emma first mentioned it. Because I'd seen it before, in one of the dozens of Facebook messages my mother had sent me over the years. Messages I deleted without reading, but not before seeing the sender's name. Sarah Morrison Brennan. My mother had remarried. My mother had remarried a man named Brennan. And if Emma's dream bike belonged to my mother's husband, I started laughing. Really laughing. The kind of deep, uncontrollable laughter that comes when the universe reveals just how twisted its sense of humor really is. What's so funny? Linda asked, backing away from me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. But for the first time since I'd walked into that empty room, I felt something other than despair. I felt possibility. Nothing, I said, wiping tears from my eyes. Nothing at all. I'm just amazed at how things work out sometimes. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. Way down at the bottom, in the contacts I'd never deleted but never intended to use, I found it. Sarah Morrison Brennan. My finger hovered over the call button. One phone call, one conversation. One chance to turn this whole situation on its head. You know what? I said to Linda and my dad, who were watching me with growing concern. I think I'm going to hold off on that moving out thing, at least for a few days. Really? Linda's relief was palpable. Really? I want to be here when Emma gets her dream bike. I wouldn't miss it for the world. As I walked to my room, my phone was already dialing. And for the first time in hours, I was smiling. Because sometimes, the best revenge is just letting people get exactly what they asked for. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, a woman's voice answered. Older, more tired than I remembered, but unmistakably hers. Hello? Hi, Mom. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard her sharp intake of breath. Marcus, oh my God, Marcus, is that really you? Yeah, it's me. I sat on my bed, the only piece of furniture left in my devastated room, and tried to keep my voice steady. We need to talk. Yes, yes, of course. I've been hoping you'd call for so long. I know I hurt you terribly when I left, and I've regretted it every single day since. Mom, stop. This isn't a reconciliation call. At least, not exactly. I took a deep breath. I'm calling about your husband's motorcycle. Another long pause. Tom's motorcycle? I don't understand. The vintage one. The one he's selling to an 18-year-old girl named Emma Chen. I let that sink in for a moment. The one he's selling to my stepsister. What? Her voice pitched higher. Wait, slow down. Your stepsister. Marcus, what are you talking about? Dad remarried Mom 3 years ago to a woman named Linda Chen. She has a daughter, Emma, who's been obsessing over Tom's bike for months. They sold my entire gaming setup today, $5,500 worth of equipment, to buy it from him. I could hear her breathing getting faster. Oh my God, Marcus, I had no idea. Tom said he was selling the bike to some local kid. He never mentioned. How is this possible? Small world, right? That's what Tom told Linda when she called. He thought it was funny that everything happens for a reason. Marcus, honey, I need you to understand something. That motorcycle, it's not just any bike. It was my father's, your grandfather's. He left it to me when he died, and when Tom and I got married, I gave it to him because he loved it so much. But it's a family heirloom. My grandfather, I barely remembered him. He died when I was 7. But I remembered his stories about riding that bike across the country in the 70s. I remembered him promising to teach me to ride it someday. So Emma's about to buy our family's motorcycle with money from selling my property. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Do you see how messed up this is? Sweetheart, this is unbelievable. When did you say this sale was happening? Soon. Emma's out with her friend right now, probably drooling over it. They're planning to drive out to pick it up this weekend. Marcus, I have to tell you something else. Something I should have told you years ago. Her voice got quiet, vulnerable. Part of the reason I left, it wasn't just about your father and me growing apart. I was sick, severely depressed. I made terrible decisions, and I hurt the people I loved most. But I never stopped loving you. Mom, let me finish, please. I've been in therapy for years, working on myself, trying to become someone worthy of being your mother again. And Tom knows everything. He knows about you, about how much I regret leaving, about how I dream of having a relationship with you again. I could hear her crying now, soft sniffles that made my chest tight. He also knows that motorcycle represents the only connection I still have to my father, and by extension, to you. He's been after me for months to reach out to you again, to try harder to reconnect. He thinks selling the bike is a mistake. Wait, so he doesn't want to sell it? Not really, but we've been having financial troubles, and when this girl kept messaging him, offering more and more money, Marcus, we need the cash. Tom's been out of work for 8 months, and I can barely keep up with the bills on my teacher's salary. The pieces were falling into place, but not the way I'd expected. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about family. Real family, broken family, complicated family. Mom, how much is Tom asking for the bike? $5,500. Emma offered to pay cash, which is why he finally agreed. My gaming setup. They'd sold my gaming setup for exactly the amount needed to buy my family's motorcycle from my estranged mother. The universe wasn't just twisted, it was downright sadistic. I have an idea, I said slowly, but I need to know something first. Do you really want to reconnect with me? Or are you just saying that because this situation is weird? Marcus, I have wanted nothing more for the past 6 years than to have my son back in my life. I would do anything, to make that happen. Even if it meant disappointing some random teenager? She laughed through her tears. Sweetheart, I don't care about some random teenager. I care about you. That's when I knew I had her, and more importantly, that's when I knew what I was going to do. Okay, here's the plan. Don't sell the bike to Emma. But Marcus, we really need the money. I'll buy it. Silence. You'll what? I'll buy the bike for $5,500, the exact amount they got for selling my computer. But honey, where will you get that kind of money? That's where it gets interesting. See, technically, they can't legally sell my property without my permission. I'm 24, it was my equipment, bought with my money, in my name. If I wanted to, I could call the police and report it stolen. Oh my God. But I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to give them a choice. They can either get me that $5,500 back immediately, or they can face theft charges. And once I have that money, I'm buying our family's motorcycle. Marcus, that's brilliant, but what about Emma? She's going to be heartbroken. Mom, Emma made her choice when she convinced her mother and my father to steal from me. She decided my dreams were worth less than hers. Now she gets to live with that decision. I could hear her thinking, weighing the options. There's something else, though, I continued. I want to make a deal with you. What kind of deal? I buy the bike, but I don't take it. I leave it with you and Tom, and in exchange, we start over. We try to rebuild what we lost, slowly, carefully, but for real this time. She was crying harder now. You would do that? After everything I put you through? Mom, I'm not doing this just for revenge. I'm doing it because I miss you. I miss having a mother. I miss feeling like I had family who actually cared about me. Dad chose his new family over me today, and I realized, maybe it's time I chose mine too. Oh, sweetheart, yes, 1,000 times yes. Good. Now here's what we're going to do. When Emma and her crew show up this weekend, the bike won't be for sale anymore. Tom's going to tell them that family circumstances have changed and he's decided to keep it. What if they offer more money? They can't. They already spent everything they had, my everything, on the initial offer. And if they push too hard, Tom can always mention that he's decided to keep it in the family, that it's going to his stepson. I could almost hear her smiling through the phone. Marcus, this is going to devastate that poor girl. That poor girl devastated me first. The difference is, I actually had something to lose. She was just chasing a fantasy. You sound different, honey. Harder. I am different. Today changed me. They changed me. But maybe that's not entirely a bad thing. What are you going to tell your father and stepmother? The truth. Eventually. But first, I want to watch Emma's face when she realizes her dream bike isn't happening. I want to see the exact moment she understands that actions have consequences. And then I'm going to pack my real belongings, drive to wherever you are, and meet my stepfather. And we're going to figure out how to be a family again. Tom's going to love you, she whispered. He's been wanting to meet you for so long. We'll see. But Mom, this isn't forgiveness. Not yet. This is just a chance for both of us. That's all I can ask for. Good. Now give me Tom's number. I need to talk to him directly. Make sure we're all on the same page. As she gave me the number, I could hear voices downstairs. Emma was home, probably buzzing with excitement about her upcoming purchase. Mom, I have to go. They're back. Okay, but Marcus, thank you for giving us this chance. Don't thank me yet. We've got a long way to go. I hung up and immediately dialed Tom's number. He answered on the first ring. Tom Brennan. Hi, Tom. This is Marcus, Sarah's son. Marcus! His voice was warm, genuinely pleased. Sarah just texted me, son, I can't believe this is happening. Believe it. Now, are you ready to break a teenage girl's heart for the sake of family? He chuckled. Kid, I've been married to your mother for 4 years. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that family comes first. Real family. Then we understand each other. We do indeed. And Marcus, welcome to the family. I looked out my window and saw Emma bouncing up the front walk, her phone pressed to her ear, probably telling someone about how perfect her bike was going to be. Tom, I need to ask you a favor. Anything. When you tell her the bike's not for sale anymore, I want you to be very specific about why. How specific? I smiled, watching Emma's animated gestures through the glass. Tell her it's going to stay in the Morrison family, where it belongs. The silence on the other end told me he understood exactly what I was asking. I hung up with Tom and sat in the silence of my stripped room, listening to Emma's excited chatter drifting up from downstairs. She was talking to someone, probably Madison, about pickup times and road trips and how she'd look so cool riding her vintage bike to college. Time to crash that party. I walked downstairs to find the three of them clustered around the kitchen table. Emma was practically vibrating with excitement, her phone on speaker as she talked to what sounded like a mechanic about getting the bike inspected after purchase. Oh, and Mr. Brennan said I could come see it again before we finalize everything, she was saying. He's so sweet. He said he wants to make sure it goes to someone who'll really appreciate it. I almost laughed out loud. If only she knew. Emma, I said, stepping into the kitchen. We need to talk, all of us. The room went quiet. Emma looked up at me with barely concealed annoyance. I was interrupting her moment of triumph. Can it wait? I'm trying to coordinate. No, it can't wait. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. Dad, Linda, I need $5,500. Tonight. Linda's face went white. Marcus, we already discussed this. We'll pay you back eventually. No, you misunderstood. I'm not asking for your promise to pay me back someday. I'm demanding my money. Now. Tonight. Dad finally looked up from his coffee. Son, that's not possible. We don't have that kind of cash just sitting around. Then you have a problem. Because what you did today was theft. Grand theft, to be precise. You sold property that didn't belong to you without the owner's permission for your own benefit. Emma's phone call had gone forgotten. She was staring at me with growing alarm. Marcus, don't be dramatic, Linda started. I'm not being dramatic, I'm being legal. I opened my phone's camera and started recording. For the record, I am formally demanding the return of my stolen property or immediate restitution in the amount of $5,500. The property was sold without my knowledge or consent while I was at work today. You can't record us without permission, Linda snapped. Actually, I can. This is a one-party consent state, and this recording will be very useful when I file the police report. Police report? Emma's voice cracked. What police report? The one I'm filing if I don't have my money in 2 hours. Dad leaned back in his chair, studying me like he was seeing me for the first time. You'd actually do it. You'd have us arrested. Dad, you stole from me. You literally stole from your own son to buy your stepdaughter a toy. So yeah, I'd absolutely have you arrested. It's not a toy, Emma finally exploded. It's a vintage 1974 Kawasaki Z1. It's a classic, and Mr. Brennan is only selling it because he needs the money for medical bills. I turned to her, and she must have seen something in my expression because she shrank back. Medical bills, huh? That's interesting. What kind of medical bills? I don't know. He didn't say specifically, but his wife has been sick and… His wife? I let that hang in the air. Did he mention his wife's name? Emma looked confused. No, why would he? What does that matter? It matters because his wife is my mother, Emma. Sarah Morrison Brennan. The mother who walked out on me when I was 12. The kitchen went dead silent. Linda's mouth fell open. Dad went completely pale. Emma just stared at me like I'd grown a second head. That's impossible, Emma whispered. Is it? Did you ever wonder why Mr. Brennan asked if your last name was Morrison when Linda called? Did you think it was just a coincidence? You're lying. But her voice was shaking now. I pulled up my phone's contact list and showed her the screen. Sarah Morrison Brennan. Want me to call her right now? Want to ask her about her son Marcus? Emma grabbed the phone before I could stop her and stared at the contact information. Her face went from confused to horrified to absolutely devastated in the span of seconds. Oh my God, she breathed. Oh my God, this can't be happening. But it is happening. And here's the best part. I just got off the phone with Tom. That's Mr. Brennan's first name, by the way. He's my stepfather now, technically. And he's decided not to sell you the bike after all. What? Emma's voice was barely a whisper. Family circumstances have changed, he said. He's decided to keep it in the Morrison family, where it belongs. Emma looked like she was about to faint. No, this isn't real. This is some kind of sick joke. Want me to call him? Want to hear it straight from his mouth? Marcus, stop. Dad's voice was quiet, defeated. Just stop. Stop what, Dad? Stop telling the truth. Stop pointing out that you destroyed your relationship with your son for someone who isn't even your daughter. She is my daughter now. No, she's not. I slammed my hand on the table, making everyone jump. She's your wife's daughter. That's it. I'm your son, your actual biological son, and you chose her over me. Emma started crying then, big ugly sobs that shook her whole body. This isn't fair. I've wanted this bike for months. I've been planning my whole summer around it. You know what's not fair, Emma? Having your family steal from you. Having people you trust sell your dreams to fund someone else's. I didn't know, she wailed. I didn't know they were going to sell your computer. Bullshit. The word came out flat and cold. You knew exactly where that money was coming from. You knew they couldn't afford $5,500. You knew and you didn't care. Linda was crying now too, quietly, her face buried in her hands. I want my money, I said again. $5,500. Tonight. We don't have it, Dad said simply. We spent it. Then get it back. From where? The kid who bought your setup is 3 hours away and he paid cash. He's probably already sold half of it online. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then I guess you'd better start making some phone calls. Because I'm serious about that police report. Emma looked up at me through her tears. Marcus, please. I know you're angry and you have every right to be, but what? But I should just let it go because you really, really want something. Emma, you're 18 years old. You're an adult, and adults face consequences for their actions. What do you want from us? Linda asked, her voice muffled by her hands. I want you to understand what you did. I want you to feel what I felt when I walked into my empty room. I want you to experience what it's like to have your dreams ripped away by people who are supposed to love you. We do love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, you would have asked first. If you loved me, you would have found another way. If you loved me, you wouldn't have chosen Emma over me. I looked around the table at their tear-streaked faces and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a cold, empty space where my trust used to be. I'm going to make this simple for you, I said. You have until tomorrow at noon to get me my money. $5,500, cash. If you don't, I call the police and file theft charges against all three of you. All three? Emma squeaked. You accepted stolen goods, Emma. That makes you an accessory. But I didn't know. Ignorance isn't a defense. Besides, deep down, you did know. You just chose not to think about it. I stood up and looked down at them. My broken, dysfunctional, soon-to-be former family. Oh, and Emma? I'd cancel that road trip if I were you. Tom's expecting my call tomorrow to arrange pickup of the bike. For the new owner. The new owner? She whispered. Me? I'm buying my grandfather's motorcycle with the money you stole from me. And then I'm riding it to my mother's house, where I'm going to start over with family who actually wants me around. Emma let out a wail that could have shattered glass. You can't do this. You can't take everything away from me. I'm not taking anything away from you, Emma. I'm just taking back what was mine to begin with. The money, the bike, my self-respect, my family. I headed for the stairs, but Dad's voice stopped me. Marcus, son, please don't do this. We can work something out. We can what, Dad? We can pretend this never happened? We can go back to being one big happy family? You made your choice today. You chose them over me. Now you get to live with that choice. Where will you go? Linda asked quietly. I told you, to my real family. To people who understand what loyalty means. Emma was hyperventilating now, rocking back and forth in her chair. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. It is happening, Emma. And tomorrow, when Tom tells you that the bike isn't for sale anymore, when he explains that it's going to his stepson instead, I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember that actions have consequences. I want you to remember that sometimes, when you reach for someone else's dreams, you end up losing your own. I started up the stairs again, but this time it was Emma's voice that stopped me. Marcus, wait! She was standing now, tears streaming down her face. What if I could get your computer back? What if I could find the guy who bought it and convince him to sell it back? I turned around slowly. With what money, Emma? You spent it all on a bike you're never going to get. I have savings. I have a job. You could what? Work for 2 years like I did? Save every penny? Skip meals and wear old clothes and sacrifice everything for something you really wanted? And then have it stolen from you by people you trusted? She stared at me, the reality finally sinking in. That's what I thought, I said softly. Good luck explaining to your friends why your summer plans just got canceled. Good luck explaining why the dream bike you've been bragging about for months isn't happening. Good luck explaining that sometimes the universe has a sense of humor about what goes around coming around. I went to my room and closed the door, leaving them to their tears and their regrets and their consequences. Outside my window, I could see Emma's friend Madison's car pulling up. Emma had probably called her to share the good news about finalizing the bike purchase. This was going to be interesting. I watched from my window as Madison bounced out of her car, clearly excited to hear about Emma's bike adventure. She had no idea she was walking into a disaster zone. The front door opened and Madison's cheerful voice carried up the stairs. Emma, are you ready to celebrate? Did you talk to Mr. Brennan about... Her voice cut off abruptly. She must have seen the tear-streaked faces. I couldn't help myself. I crept to the top of the stairs to listen. What's wrong? Why is everyone crying? Emma, what happened? Emma's voice was barely coherent through her sobs. It's over, Maddie. The bike. The bike is gone. Gone? What do you mean gone? You said the guy was holding it for you. He's not selling it anymore. He's keeping it in his family. But that's illegal. You had a deal. If only Madison knew how ironic that statement was. I heard Linda's shaky voice. There were complications, family complications. What kind of complications could possibly... That's when my phone rang. Tom's number. Marcus, we have a problem. My blood went cold. What kind of problem? Emma just called here. She's persistent. She offered me $7,000 for the bike. $7,000? Where would she get $7,000? That's what I'm worried about, son. She sounded desperate. Really desperate. She kept saying she had to have it, that she'd already told everyone, that her whole summer was ruined without it. I heard a car door slam outside. Through my window, I saw another car in the driveway. One I didn't recognize. Tom, I need to call you back. I hung up and rushed to the window. Emma was outside talking frantically to some guy I'd never seen before. College-aged, expensive clothes. Driving a BMW. Madison was with them, and they were all looking at Emma's phone. My stomach dropped. I had a terrible feeling about this. I crept back to the staircase and heard Emma's voice from the front porch. I promise, Kyle, it's a sure thing. The bike's worth at least 10 grand, maybe more. I just need to borrow the extra 2,000 and I'll pay you back with interest in 2 weeks. Kyle, Madison's older brother, the one who sold drugs at the community college, the one Emma had always sworn she'd never get involved with. Emma, I don't know, Kyle was saying. 2 grand is a lot of money, and if this bike deal falls through, it won't fall through. The seller already agreed. I just need to increase my offer. I heard Dad's heavy footsteps on the stairs. He looked haggard, older than I'd ever seen him. Son, we need to talk. About what? About calling this off. She's not handling this well. She's talking about borrowing money from people she shouldn't borrow money from. That's not my problem anymore, Dad. It is if she gets herself into real trouble. Kyle Morrison isn't someone you want to owe money to. I froze. Did you say Morrison? Yeah, Kyle Morrison. Madison's brother. He's bad news, son. Drugs, loan sharking, worse stuff. If Emma borrows money from him, Morrison, another Morrison. This was getting more twisted by the minute. I called Tom back immediately. Tom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Do you have any other family in this area? Any relatives with the last name Morrison? Long pause. Well, there's my nephew, Kyle, my late brother's son. But Marcus, he's not a good kid. He got mixed up with some bad people after his dad died. Why? The universe wasn't just twisted. It was completely insane. Tom, I think Emma's about to borrow money from your nephew to buy your bike. What? That's impossible. Kyle doesn't even know about... Oh God, Marcus. If Emma owes Kyle money, what happens if she owes Kyle money? He doesn't just lend money, son. He controls people, gets them to do things for him, illegal things. And if they can't pay... Tom's voice trailed off. I looked out the window. Emma was signing something on Kyle's phone, some kind of digital contract. Tom, I need you to call Kyle, right now. Tell him the bike deal is off. I can't do that, Marcus. If I interfere with his business, he'll know you and I are connected. He'll put 2 and 2 together about you being Sarah's son. And if he knows your family... What? He blames Sarah for his father's death. My brother died in a car accident 5 years ago, but Kyle thinks it's Sarah's fault because she wasn't there for the family after his mom died. He's been holding a grudge ever since. This was spiraling out of control fast. I watched Emma shake Kyle's hand. The deal was done. She'd just borrowed money from a dangerous loan shark who happened to be my mother's stepnephew and who apparently hated my mother. And she was going to use that money to try to buy my grandfather's motorcycle. I called Tom back. New plan, sell Emma the bike. What? Marcus, I thought, sell her the bike, but there's a catch. I want you to require her to come pick it up in person, with the full payment, in cash, this weekend. But if she's borrowing from Kyle, trust me, just do it. And Tom, make sure Kyle comes with her for the pickup. Marcus, what are you planning? I'm planning to introduce Kyle to his step-cousin, and I'm planning to tell him exactly who Emma's family is, and exactly who she stole from to afford his money. Son, that's dangerous. If Kyle realizes Emma's connected to Sarah through you, Then he'll realize that Emma's part of the family he hates. And he'll realize that the money he lent her was stolen from his step-cousin. And he'll realize that she played him just like he thinks Sarah played his family. Tom was quiet for a long moment. That's diabolical. That's justice. Emma wanted to be part of a complicated family situation. Now she gets to be part of a really complicated family situation. I hung up and watched Emma practically skip back into the house. She was glowing with excitement, probably thinking she'd saved her summer plans. She had no idea she'd just signed her own disaster. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Tom again. It's done. I called Emma back and told her I'd accept her $7,000 offer. She's driving out Saturday morning with the cash and her friend's brother for security. Perfect. Marcus, are you sure about this? Kyle's not stable. If he finds out Emma's connected to Sarah, then Emma will learn what it feels like to have her world turned upside down by family drama she never saw coming, just like I did today. And if things go too far, then I'll step in, but not until she understands what she's really done. Saturday morning came faster than I expected. I'd driven out to Tom and Mom's place Friday night, a reconciliation that was awkward but hopeful. Tom was everything Mom had said he was, kind, steady, and genuinely excited to have me as part of his family. We were waiting in the garage at 10 a.m. when a car pulled into the driveway. Emma got out first, looking nervous but determined. Kyle got out of the driver's seat, and I could see immediately why everyone was afraid of him. He had the look of someone who'd seen too much and done worse. Mr. Brennan? Emma approached cautiously. I have your money. Tom stepped forward. Emma, before we proceed, I need to introduce you to someone. This is my stepson, Marcus. I stepped out of the shadows, and Emma's face went white. Hello, stepsister. Kyle looked between us, confused. You two know each other? Oh, we know each other very well, I said. Emma's the one I told you about, Kyle. The one whose family stole from me. Kyle's expression darkened. Wait, this is the girl whose family sold your gaming setup? Emma looked panicked. You know each other? Kyle's my step-cousin, I said casually. Tom's nephew. And Kyle, Emma here is my father's stepdaughter. The one I was telling you about who convinced her family to steal $5,500 from me. Kyle turned to Emma, and his face was like stone. You're part of the Morrison family? What? No, I'm not. Your stepbrother is a Morrison. That makes you connected to the family that destroyed mine. Emma looked at me desperately. Marcus, I don't understand what's happening. What's happening, Emma, is that you're about to learn that when you mess with people's families, sometimes you end up messing with your own family without even knowing it. Kyle was staring at the motorcycle now, putting pieces together. This bike, it belonged to Sarah Morrison, didn't it? Tom nodded reluctantly. Kyle laughed, but it wasn't a pleasant sound. So let me get this straight. Sarah Morrison's son's stepsister borrowed money from me to buy Sarah Morrison's motorcycle after her family stole from Sarah Morrison's son? That's about right, I said. Emma was hyperventilating. Kyle, please, I can pay you back. I have the money right here. No, Kyle said quietly. No, I don't think you do. He walked to his car and popped the trunk, pulling out a baseball bat. Kyle, Tom warned, don't do anything stupid. Stupid. Nothing stupid about protecting family. He turned to Emma. You stole from my cousin. You borrowed from me under false pretenses, and you're connected to the woman who destroyed my family. That's when I realized my plan had gone too far. Kyle, stop. I stepped between him and Emma. She's learned her lesson. Has she? Because I don't think she has. Emma was crying now, fumbling with the envelope of cash. Here, take the money. Take all of it. I don't want the bike anymore. Kyle snatched the envelope and counted it. $7,000. That's $5,000 more than you actually owed me, Emma. You know what that means? Kyle, no, I said firmly. It means you just paid me $5,000 for a lesson about not messing with family. He pocketed the money and got back in his car. Thanks for the business, cuz. Maybe now she'll think twice before stealing from family. As he drove away, Emma collapsed on the gravel driveway, sobbing. She'd lost $7,000, her dream bike, and probably her trust in everyone around her. I knelt down beside her. Emma, I want you to remember this feeling. This is what you did to me. This is what it feels like to have everything taken away by people you thought you could trust. She looked up at me through her tears. I get it, okay? I get it. You win. You got your revenge. This wasn't about winning, Emma. This was about teaching you that actions have consequences, that other people's dreams matter too. That family isn't just about getting what you want. It's about protecting each other. I helped her to her feet. Come on, I'll drive you home. As we got in Tom's truck, Emma asked quietly, Are you really going to reconnect with your mom? Yeah, I think I am. Even after everything she did to you? Everyone deserves a second chance, Emma. Even you. She was quiet for a long moment. Marcus? Yeah. I'm sorry, really, truly sorry. I didn't understand what I was taking from you. I know. And Emma? Next time you want something really badly, try earning it yourself instead of letting other people pay the price. As we drove home, I realized something had shifted. My anger was gone, replaced by something that felt almost like peace. Emma had learned her lesson. My family had faced consequences, and I'd found my way back to my mother. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying people. Sometimes it's about helping them understand exactly what they've done. And sometimes, the universe really does have a twisted sense of humor about bringing families together.